Would Elden Ring Colossal Weapons work as actual weapons? The duelist's greataxe. Honestly, for Colossal Weapons, this isn't as big as one would think. Somebody could definitely lift it, and it would probably be pretty devastating against trees or any fortifications. However, if a mortal human were using it, then they would be incredibly slow, and somebody with any regular weapon would be faster. And if somebody incredibly strong were using it, then that wooden shaft would probably be too fragile to hold it all together after any use. Rotten greataxe, same exact thing. The Golems Halberd isn't that bad. According to the stats, it weighs 20 pounds, and the head is definitely larger than normal polearm heads would be. However, it's weighted on the end, which would act as a counterbalance and would make it slightly more maneuverable than its weight would otherwise imply. You might actually be able to effectively use it. The Giant Crusher. I really appreciate that it looks like a sword hilt on a hammer thing, but the Prelate's Inferno Crozier would be liftable but would be too slow. The greatclub is definitely a large club, and if you could lift it and move it around, you could bonk things with it. As far as heavy weapons go, all the weight isn't at the very end, it's kind of spread out along the entire body, so it's not too unbalanced. At least not as unbalanced as the last one. So it might be mediocre. The Troll's hammer in the game weighs 16 pounds, so that kind of implies that the head is lighter than stone or even the wood of the greatclub. So depending on how that balances, it might actually be usable. I mean, there are sledgehammers or splitting moles that are about in that weight range. Not the best weapons, but usable. The Dragon Greatclaw is a really cool idea. I love the design that it's, just a dragon claw and somebody sharpened it. However, aside from the size and a normal person using it, the big issue that I have is there's just a blade at the top and you're hitting with the point of that blade, or at least the sharpened bit. It would be much better to just sharpen this side right here and use it like an axe. The watchdog staff would be quite top heavy, although that reminds me of something in the movie The 36th Chamber of Shaolin. Dude has a sledgehammer and he's trying to swing it around. To attack enemies, but he's obviously too slow because it's a sledgehammer. But then he decides to flip it over and use it like a club with a weighted end, and he's able to maneuver much faster. The shaft of the watchdog staff looks like it's steel, so you could use that as an effective weapon. However, a metal quarterstaff would probably be even better. Staff of the Avatar, pretty much the same, although, is that a Moon Knight reference? Rotten staff, pretty much the same. The envoy's greathorn is way too big to be actually used. That isn't enough grip area to properly maneuver that much bulk. Ghiza's wheel? Disregarding the fact that it works as a circular saw in the game, that wouldn't be too effective as a weapon, because when you hit things, the wheel would just move on its axis, and you couldn't really transfer the maximum amount of force. I don't quite understand the Falling Star Beast Jaw. However, it looks really top heavy, and I mean, you could bonk things with it or stab things with it, but not useful against other weapons. The axe of Godfrey is really cool because it looks like a double bit axe, blades on both sides, although one of those broke off. And I think the fact that one of those broke off is kind of its saving grace, because that would make it lighter and more functional. So as is, it would probably be usable. And while talking about big weapons, I want to mention that they would be useful if we had enhanced strength and enhanced tendon strength and, all that science stuff. Biology. And while against a lot of normal-sized opponents, somebody super strong using a regular-sized sword would be much better because they'd be able to be a lot faster with that blade. However, against dragons or heavily armored people, then a super big anime sword would be a fitting weapon for somebody with super strength. Because a regular sword isn't going to cut through armor or scales that well at all. And if you want an example of how that would be functional, just look at any panel of the Black Swordsman arc in Berserk. Or even a lot of the Golden Age.